What's up guys, Curtis here and welcome to a brand new FIFA 20 video. Today we're going to be doing something that I did a few years ago. This was a video where I looked at players at the time that had served the longest bans in football, and also players that had been to prison, that had longest suspensions from football, all these crazy sorts of things. Well, after something that may have been in the news that, you guys may know exactly what I'm talking about as of late, I thought, let's bring it back and let's bring back an updated version. Because in the 3.5 years since I recorded that video, players have been banned and players have gone behind bars. So if you guys are looking forward to this type of video, please do give us a like. It's greatly appreciated. And if it's your first time watching, I genuinely do mean this. I'm not just saying it. This isn't one of the ones where you say, just give us a subscribe. If you guys want to see more videos from me, drop a subscription and I may just stick around and keep uploading some more content. But now, just to kind of interject, I've done this video because I find it fascinating, the culture of football, the way it is balanced in that there's these multi-millionaire men, but they aren't perfect. And nobody's perfect. And there, some crimes are worse than others. Some are just really silly mistakes. And I find it fascinating to analyse the psyche of how this has happened to footballers. You would assume there's always that thing of you're millionaires, you should just sit at home and just do nothing. But these things happen and footballers do crazy things, and it's interesting to almost see them brought back to you and I, humans, men, normal people on planet Earth. And I just find it fascinating. So just to interject, that's why this video has happened. I find it really interesting. First up, we're going to kick off with Daheya. You may be going, what? David Daheya? David Daheya, when he first joined Manchester United, stole a Krispy Kreme donut. He went into his local shop, I believe it was a Tesco's, he picked up the donut from the Krispy Kreme stand, walked around with two of his Spanish mates who also ate donuts, enjoyed them, and they walked off. They were grabbed by the security guards and questioned. He was obviously released because he didn't mean to steal a donut, but naughty, naughty David Daheya, you can't be doing that. And, if he had it now, he probably would have dropped it. There's going to be lots of those tonight. Lots of those brilliant, brilliant jokes. Next up, we have James Tompkins. Now, this is one that I wasn't actually that familiar of, but James Tompkins, on the 23rd of December, was charged with the assault of a police officer, resisting arrest and being drunk and disorderly following an incident on the 22nd of December, so he was arrested the following day on the 23rd, at the Sugar Hut nightclub in Brentwood, Essex. Naughty boy James. He looks like someone that would frequent a nightclub in Essex, doesn't he? But naughty, naughty James Tompkins. Next up, we have Daniel Sturridge. Now, some of you may know exactly what Sturridge did, some of you may not. Sturridge obviously got his move to Trabzonspor this year. But whilst at Trabzonspor, his contract was terminated in March of 2020, so earlier on this year, shortly before receiving a 4-month worldwide football ban for breaching betting rules. Now, I believe he claimed that he was placing a bet, that his brother placed a bet for him. I think he said something like, put this on for £5,000, if it wins you keep the difference, or something like that. It was a strange one, very unusual. But he was banned for 4 months and unable to return to football. And I believe he's still without a club as far as I'm aware. Now, Luke Mccormick here, he was arrested on the 7th of June 2008. He was arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving. This one was a really sad one. He was returning from the wedding of a former teammate, David Norris, when McCormick's Range Rover, this was at 5 AM by the way, his Range Rover collided with a Toyota Previa. The crash resulted in the death of Aaron and Ben Peake, aged 8 and 10. He was found to be massively over the drink driving limit, and a really just crazy one. Really, really sad that these sort of things happen. McCormick, yeah, he was arrested, and yeah, not a nice one. Now, probably, no, I don't want to make light of this next one, but at least the first part is at least a bit lighter. Now, George Best was known for being a troublemaker. George Best liked to have a bit of fun, didn't he? But he was originally arrested the first time for and charged with stealing a fur coat, a passport, and a checkbook from someone called Marjorie Wallace. But then he didn't stop there. He then struck one of his this is another time. He struck one of his girlfriends at least once and was arrested for that. And then was also arrested and charged with assault on a waitress called Stevie Slionyeka in November 1972 when he fractured her nose in Rubens nightclub, Manchester. What on earth could possibly happen at a nightclub that makes you want to fracture the nose of the waitress? I don't think I'll ever know, but Nonetheless, we have got Rio Ferdinand as our centre-back. Now, we've got some lovely, strong links going on at the back. Great to see. Rio Ferdinand, I'm sure a lot of you guys know, in September 2003, Rio Ferdinand missed a drugs test, which led him to be banned from all competitions for 8 months, from January until September 2004. So that was the period of his ban. Caused him to miss half a Premier League season. He missed Euro 2004. He missed Man United's European triumphs. He missed a lot. He missed a lot in that time. And all because he missed a drugs test. He didn't fail one. He may have failed it, and that might have been why he missed it. But he missed one nonetheless. And you can't be doing that. Now, next up, we have one that is incredibly alleged. Now, Harry Maguire has been arrested. He has been charged, and then subsequently the charge has been relinquished, and he's now going to a retrial. But Harry Maguire was... he's had a lot of fun over in Greece by the sounds of things. It's alleged cases of bribery, of aggravated assault, avoiding arrest. None of this has been proven. The first trial has been absolutely wiped out, and a lot of people close to Maguire is saying that, you know, that lots of horrible things happened that led to it. But all we know is that he was arrested. All we know for sure is that he was arrested, and he is facing another trial in Greece, which I think definitely makes him worthy of making it into this squad. Now, left back, we have another one that I find this one really upsetting. I think it's crazy sometimes that, I don't know if it's just because he's a footballer or what, but that these sort of things can happen, and he can get away with it almost. So in 2011, Alonso was arrested following his involvement in a car accident in Madrid. He was the driver of a car that collided with a wall, killing one of the passengers, a 22-year-old woman, having been driving at 72 miles an hour in wet conditions in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. So he is 40 miles an hour over a 30, which is insane, in wet conditions, with a blood alcohol level of 93.93 milligrams per milliliter of blood. Now, I don't know what that means, but the factors mentioned makes me assume that, you know, he was drunk, but if not, he's at least incredibly dangerously driving. He faced 21 months in prison when sentenced in February 2016. But his punishment was changed to a £61,000 fine and a driving ban of 3 years and 4 months, which he had already fulfilled. So the outcome of this death, after being charged with, you know, time in prison, Marcos Alonso didn't fulfil that and instead got a €61,000 fine, which, you know, that's not even a week's work. You pay that off in 5 days. I don't like that one personally, but he makes it into the squad for obvious reasons. Next up, we have another quite sad one, and that is Jake Livermore. So Jake Livermore tested positive for a Class A substance on the 15th of May 2015. I'm not going to mention it in the video for a number of reasons, demonetisation, but also just don't want to mention it. He was suspended by both the FA and Hull City for the remainder of the season, but this is where the sad bit happens. His Hull manager, Steve Bruce, later revealed that Livermore had taken the substance to cope with the grief caused by the death of his newborn child shortly after the FA Cup final, which is just absolutely horrific. And I know Jake Livermore, not personally, but I know of stories of him, you know, really struggling with that, and getting him back to football was a great thing for him mentally. So obviously good to hear that he's moved on, and good to hear that, you know, he's doing better in himself. But that's yeah, quite a crazy one, but definitely one of the longer fines and punishments in the Premier League. Now, next up, this one is a slightly lighter note. This one is Jack Grellish. Now, I thought, since he's not going to make the England squad, he could at least make this squad. That'll cheer him up. This is the squad he wants to be in. Jack Grellish was one of the many to overstep the mark in lockdown during the coronavirus this year. I'm not going to include them all. The list is ridiculous. Even just in the Premier League, the list is ridiculous. But Jack Grellish, the same night that he posted on Twitter about staying home, staying safe, obviously directed by his PR, he then got really drunk and went to a house party, and then left the house party drunk, crashed his car, and tried to escape, but then couldn't, so stayed and let the police come. He was so drunk, he was wearing not matching shoes, he had a slipper and a trainer on. He was obviously very drunk, and just classic footballer, that one, isn't it? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to post a message about what you guys should be doing, and then I'm just going to go out and have a good time tonight. So, classic Premier League footballer. I quite like Jack Relish, but I think that probably sums up, you know, that we don't need to cover any other Prem players. Next up, we have Roy Keane. Now, Roy Keane, he's never officially been arrested, but he's got some things that gave him mega bans and some issue with the law, so he has to make it in. So Roy Keane, 2 things for him. He was involved in an incident with a fan at the team hotel. There's not enough details on what the incident entailed, but all we do know is that an ambulance for the fan was called, and the Garda, which is the Irish police, was called. No arrests or official complaints were made, but it obviously kicked off with a drunk fan, and Keane, you know, obviously knocked him out. And then there was also an incident with Alf Inge Haaland, where Roy Keane claimed in his autobiography to hurt Haaland on the football pitch. He tackled him in what was deemed to be a revenge tackle, and basically ended his career. The guy didn't play again after it. He received a 3-match suspension, of £5,000 fine. But after stating in his autobiography that he meant to hurt him and he wanted to hurt him, the admission that it was a premeditated assault led the FA to bring him, said he was bringing the game into disrepute. He was banned for a further 5 matches and fined 150 grand. So it was a total of 8-match ban, which is nuts. Absolutely crazy. And, you know, those are the most Roy Keane things you could probably think of, aren't they? It doesn't, you know, mental guy, mental guy. Next up, we have Ronaldinho. Now, Ronaldinho is only just... Oh, in fact, I think this squad, by the way, might be almost perfect links. It's pretty decent. We're close to full chem, which doesn't happen on these sort of videos. But Ronaldinho has only just this week, I believe, been released from a 6-month house arrest. I'm not sure if he was in Paraguay or in Brazil for the house arrest. He was staying at like a 5-star hotel, which, you know, worst places to be. But he was arrested after being found with a fraudulent passport and trying to go into Paraguay. Now, nobody knows why he had a fraudulent passport. You know, anyone can recognise Ronaldinho. He is one of the most recognisable men on planet Earth. Even if he shaved his hair, you'd know it's Ronaldinho. He's got such a recognisable face. And he tried to travel with fraudulent passport. Nobody really knows why. It's not public knowledge, but he had this 6-month house arrest, and you know, it's better than sitting in a prison. I'm sure he didn't mind, but that's just another absolutely mental one, to be honest with you. And then next up, we have Troy Deeney. Now, Troy Deeney has turned out to be a fine leader of Watford Football Club and a great captain for a side that sadly went down this year. But, you know, he was a good Premier League servant. But on the 25th of June 2012, Troy Deeney was sentenced to 10 months imprisonment after pleading guilty to a charge of affray, having attacked a group of students outside a nightclub. Now, Troy Deeney was obviously, you know, having a few beers. He was outside a nightclub, having, you know, kicking off a little bit. The group of students obviously had said something to him that upset him. He didn't like it. He kicked off, and he's a big boy. And if you're a group of students, you're probably not going to fare too well up against Troy Deeney. Now, I believe there's CCTV of it kicking off, and like I said, he was sentenced to 10 months imprisonment. But he got his career back on track, and fair play to the lad. He's a great family man now, and really has turned it around. So fair play to Troy Deeney. You know, one of the nicer guys on this team, I think you could definitely say. Next up, this will never fail to blow my mind. I feel like people don't really talk about him now on the other side. But now, Ched Evans was found guilty of rape of a 19-year-old in 2012. He was released after serving half his prison sentence in 2014. But on the 14th of October the following year, he was found not guilty, new evidence came to light, and he was released of all charges and actually given an £800,000 settlement from the offender, from the prosecutor, for false imprisonment, which, considering the guy's career, was absolutely torn to shreds. Now, I don't know what this new evidence is, but that's crazy to me because I wasn't aware of this. I thought he had just got out. So that's crazy because if you hear Ched Evans, you still think of, you know, his past and what had happened. And if it's true that he was, you know, it was a false accusation, then that's crazy. And that, you know, fair play to Ched Evans for getting his career back on track. He scored a lot of goals last season. He was a great player. So I don't know. I just thought it was a bit of a surprise to me. But anyway, guys, that brings us to the end of this episode. Please do comment down below if there is anyone that I missed from this episode that should have been in, that has maybe, you know, faced prison time, anything like that in the last few years. Because I find it fascinating. I think football is such an interesting culture. And, you know, to see these sort of things happen within football, it's fascinating to me. So if you guys did enjoy it, please do leave a like, subscribe if it is your first time watching. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, guys.